They told me I was too quiet to fight back, too passive to matter. But when my family forged my name and stole the home my grandfather promised me, they didn't just take property, they awakened a fire they couldn't contain. What they didn't? No, that house held a secret. I was the only one who could unlock it. I inherited my grandfather's home, or so I believed. It was a sacred promise, sealed in his final words to me. He had looked into my eyes that summer night, under the stars that used to crown the old sycamore, and said, "This will always be yours." He squeezed my hand, and for a moment, time stood still. His voice was frail but full of purpose. But when I returned years later, it wasn't welcome I received, but betrayal. The first sign was the mailbox. Once it bore the name Blythe, in elegant script carved by his own hands. I remember watching him attach it when I was 6, his face dusted with sawdust, grinning with pride. Now, gleaming and cold, it read Celine Langford, my cousin. My heart thundered in my chest. That name had never belonged here. It felt like a slap, an erasure. I stepped out of the car. The air felt different. Not the earthy sweetness of jasmine and rosemary he used to grow, but sterile, manufactured, like something sacred had been vacuumed out. I stood there for a long moment, breathing, in silence, laced with dread. Inside the house was a stranger. The rich scent of old books, tobacco, and cedar wood gone. The floors, once polished lovingly by hand, now wore the scuffs of hasty movers. Boxes lined the walls like tombstones, marked dispose or donate. I found my bedroom gutted, the walls I once decorated with Starglow stickers now empty, paint faded, corners dusty. My stuffed animals, my books, all gone. No one had called me. No one had asked. The home I was promised had been stripped bare without a word. Then came the voice I dreaded most. My mother, stepping into the hallway with that smile perfectly rehearsed, tightly drawn. "We're listing the property, darling," she said, as if announcing brunch. "It's far too much for you to manage." Her tone was light, too light. Like this wasn't an ambush. I stared at her. He said it was mine. She tilted her head, faux sympathy flickering behind her eyes. "Verbal promises mean nothing in court, sweetheart." That moment shattered something in me. Turned and walked into the study, the one room that still smelled like him. A sanctuary. I ran my fingers along the bookshelf, still full of the volumes he loved. Homer, Frost, Baldwin, Austen. And then I saw a photograph of us, tucked behind papers, almost hidden. My young face beaming, his arm wrapped around me. Both of us laughing under the summer tree. On the desk, my initials NAB. I'd carved them in secret when I was 9, afraid he'd be mad. He never was. Instead, he carved his below mine. 2 sets of initials side by side. I noticed the drawer again. It was locked. I reached under the desk and found it still taped to the underside, just where he'd told me to hide things. A key dot inside was a thick envelope. My name. His handwriting. Opened it with shaking hands. "If they've sold the house, check the signature and date." "You weren't here." I froze. "I wasn't here. I was at a librarian's conference in Seattle." I scrambled to my laptop and pulled up the records flights photos, a panel I hosted. The closing date. The same day I was giving a presentation. Yet. My signature sat on a deed I had never seen. They had forged my name. They had erased me. Celine was already posting about the house, photos of her redecorating, claiming it as her own. She called it a fresh start. Her followers gushed in. The comments. But the truth was buried in silence. They were building a lie over my history. I wasn't just heartbroken. I was furious. I contacted Andrea Sharp, no-nonsense estate lawyer with a reputation for making the impossible happen. She listened. Every detail. She looked through the will I'd found. Gosh, her face changed. "This clause changes everything," she said. "It clearly states the house can't be sold without your in-person signature. And this," she held up the deed, "is a forgery." My hands trembled. Not from fear this time, but from clarity. I had been pushed aside. But now, I had proof. I had power. We needed more. Back at the house, I searched again. I opened drawers, flipped through dusty books, rummaged in closets. That's when I found a 8-year-old iPad no one had bothered to reset. I opened the messaging app. Dozens of threads. Celine, my mother, my father. Messages like daggers. She's too emotional. She won't fight us. Let's move before she finds out. We need the money. She doesn't deserve it. My stomach dropped. They had planned it all. They saw me as weak, easy to erase. But they forgot one thing. I remembered everything back in the study. I picked up the photograph again. Something felt off. I turned it over. Taped to the back was another key, small, ornate, like something from a jewelry box. Only I would know where it fit, under the rug. Beneath the floorboard, marked with a tiny carved heart. We carved it together when I was 12. Unlocked a hidden compartment. Inside was a lockbox. Inside that, everything. Certificates, appraisals, provenance files. Photos of rare, priceless artwork. All of them originals once hanging in the house, now replaced with fakes. One last letter. You saw the meaning in everything. Trust only you. It took my breath away. They weren't just stealing the house, they were robbing his legacy. Selling irreplaceable art in the shadows, faking documents, replacing meaning with profit. Andrea acted swiftly. We froze the sale. Filed a court order. Presented the forged deed, the original will, the texts, and the proof of the stolen art. The judge listened. Selena's lies fell apart. In court they stammered. They blamed each other. They lied under oath. But truth is heavier than fiction. It doesn't break under pressure. It exposes. The sale was ruled fraudulent. The art was tracked to a shady private broker. Charges were filed. My mother and father left the courtroom in disgrace. Celine went silent online. But I wasn't celebrating. I returned home. Alone. The house was quiet, stripped of warmth. But it was mine. The papers said so now. And more than that, he said so. Every letter, every carving, every lock only I could open. I moved room by room. I found the old record player, the one he used every Sunday. I cleaned it, played his favorite jazz vinyl. I cried for hours in the kitchen where we used to make pancakes. I replanted his garden, touching each stem like an old friend. I brought life back. Not because of the win, but because of what he gave me, his trust. They saw me as the quiet one. He saw me as the keeper. I wasn't the loudest. I wasn't the strongest. But I was the one who remembered the smell of the magnolias in spring, the way he laughed with his whole chest, the stories he whispered when lightning split the sky. I remembered what mattered, and now I protect it. Each day, I add a little more. One photo at a time, one memory, one new tradition. It's not a house anymore. It's a living story, and it lives on through me. If this story stirred something in you, if you've ever been silenced, erased, or underestimated, know this: your voice doesn't need to be loud to be powerful. The truth doesn't need volume to echo. Sometimes, it only needs one person brave enough to remember, because in the silence, the fiercest battles are waged and won. If you believe stories like this matter, hit the like button. Share this with someone who needs to hear it. And drop a comment below. Where are you watching from, and what time is it right now? Let's show the world how many of us are reclaiming our stories. And don't forget to subscribe. This isn't just one story, it's the beginning of many.